boat.
I'm very happy to introduce Tom Canterbury, who's the mayor, of course, of Ossining, and Barbara Klefkowski, who's chair of the planning board. And they have very generously agreed to tour with us and then answer some questions at lunch. Okay, Barbara, you take over.
Well, the village board is the lead agency. So after everything has been pretty much decided in general concept by the village board, then it will come to the planning board for fine details and anything that we may find that something could be done better. This building and facility will remain, and the building, parcel A starts over there. You want to take it from here?
Okay, you intended to move over there, right?
But you can.
It's a lot easier to stand over there. Basically, this not only is this building going to stay, but the town of Ossining, which owns the building, is beginning to put money in the building. Fortunately, as you can see, they had some minor damage to it with the water, but they're putting in some heat, and they're also changing some of the. They put in sewer service, which it hadn't had in the past, and we're also going to fix it up and paint it up, and even more than fix and paint it up, it'll be some major work done on this, so it looks a little better. And it will remain just the way it is. It's a very unique organization, as you know. It's a membership organization that leases the building from the town, and so that's basically that. Were you intending to walk over there? I really like
Yeah.
to.
Yeah,
Let me
we're
just do some brief description here to say when they're sitting down. And we're gonna obviously be talking at lunch a lot more. There are three parcels to this whole thing, as you've all heard. Parcel A, which is all of the development west of the tracks. It includes the old Maui property. It includes Flavor Sciences, and it includes what we call the Bus Peninsula, affectionately. So all three parcels of land are included in Parcel A. The intention is, as I said, rather Parcel B is the parking lot, the current Metro North parking lot on the east side of the tracks by the station. Not over here, but on the other side of the tracks. Parcel C is the highway garage, okay, which goes all the way up into the gorge and covers the entire parcel. So those are the three components. As you know, on this Parcel A, which is I call the main event, there will be a restaurant which will be on the southern end, which we'll show you when we get over there, some housing on the other side, and a plaza in the center, just about where the kiosk is now, which we'll describe in more detail. We have, as you know, the dock already, and positive things have happened across the river. Mr. Ginsburg owns some of the land now. Actually, he owned it all along. He hadn't given it, leased it to him, or had some kind of arrangement. So he's directly involved over there, and things are going to happen a lot more quickly for the ferry service. If not, we end up having a nice dock of our own, which we were ready on time, but we were waiting for
Across the river.
across the river Hammerstein. So in any event,
So you're talking about the dock that comes out of Harbor Square Park.
Pardon me?
You're talking about the newest
Yes,
dock
the
here,
new dock.
that's closest to us.
right, there'll be a 50-foot extension of floating dock. You see, and we can make it as long as we want. We can put it out another 100 feet if we want to. It will take the ferries, the Pelletari's ferries, and other boats, which can be, we could even have some kind of a tourism thing with boat trips from here as part of the, as you know, also on the other side there'll be some commercial development. Not a lot, about 4,000 to 6,000 square feet, and plus the restaurant itself. I think it's 10,000 square feet. So that's the basic plan. I think at this point we should move over there and take a look at it.
Wait, one comment I'd like to make though.
Sure.
Planning board is pushing very hard for Parcel B to be done first, which is the parking area, because we felt our people have to be able to park their car into the city. Because you know when construction goes on, things get messed up. And we really need a place to park our cars when we're going to work. So,
That is pretty much.
The parking garage?
Pardon me?
Is parcel B a parking garage?
Parking B is a parking garage.
And how
Yes.
tall is it?
It would be, I believe, up to 6 stories. It was a hotel, five stories.
In light of the flood we just had, is there going to be an issue about flooding on the new?
Well, let's look at it and talk about it as we go on. Actually, the garage itself will only be 3 stories. It'll be just below the level.
Can I ask a question?
Of the railroad station. There'll be a building that will go higher, but the garage itself will be just about at the level of where the railroad station is.
And the hotel will be on top of that?
The hotel will be on top of that.
And there'll be 3 stories of hotel on top of it?
Right, and there'll be some stores underneath.
They scaled it back? Because the scaled it back, the zoning petition drawings show like 4 and 4. I mean, it's not detailed, but what's
Right.
drawn shows 8 stories. And then
Total of 6 stories, and
Does that interfere with anybody's view from above?
actually, if you look at the view, there are view sheds that have been drawn up. It really doesn't affect, maybe the Elks Club windows, I don't know. I don't, other than that, I don't think it affects anybody in terms of view sheds.
I just wanted to
Right,
ask.
you're right, it is 8 stories.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
4 and 4.
Right? Okay, so just one question. What's the status of the zoning amendment petition with the planning board?
hasn't come before us.
It's not before you yet? Okay. So but you sound like you're predisposed to, after negotiating, to work it out. In other words, like you're not opposed in principle to the project?
In total, no. Perhaps some details we'll have some concern about, but in general, no, we're in favor of it.
Okay.
I'd
Let's
like
go
to ask
over
you,
now.
to hold your questions, really as for our moving lawn and for lunch when they're planned.
Okay, let's head over to
Will you
the,
lead the way, please?
here.
And you now?
Yeah, we have some old trucks that are parked in
Oh, so that belongs to the town.
now belong to the village. Yep.
Okay.
Everybody hear me? We can fit more people up here. Come on up.
Ann, come on up.
Plenty of room. Just watch the puddle.
Come on up. You want a headshot with the river behind you, Tom, for your next one?
Yeah.
You
I don't know if there's going to be a next one.
Yeah, wave goodbye to
There
it.
we go. My scrapbook. I have an extensive scrapbook. Everybody hear me? Oh, the dander rest. I'm sorry, this is part of the cleanup in the storm, and we've rented that apparatus, so I didn't want to ask them to turn it off. As we said, this is parcel A. What you see here is all a temporary structure. This has never been made a park. It's just being used as a recreational area. Because obviously we knew that we were going to do something other than make it a park. This used to be the Maui property. That building was the Maui building itself. There were 2 large. The status environmentally of this is they call it inactive status. Okay, and it means that as we move forward environmentally, we'll have to, if any digging is done here or stuff like that, there could be problems or there might not be problems. They've done test borings. Tully has done test borings on the entire parcel, many test borings, and there will be probably a preliminary report coming down pretty soon. By the way, the scoping meeting that we had, the sessions that we had, there is a document now available that is the final scope of work. It can be changed, obviously, with mutual agreement.
Where is it available?
Pardon?
Where is
At
the
the town clerk will have it available. And that now, after the hearing that we had, and people came in and gave their remarks and comments and requests for questions and problems, that's all now included. The initial one we had already was pretty extensive because we had our own people do it. Basically, the core concepts to understanding what we want to happen here: public access to the Hudson River for the length of our property was a requirement. Public spaces are required. Retention of good view sheds. Extension of the downtown is essential. In other words, we basically, even though there's a hill here. It's difficult. It's kind of a barrier to pedestrians, but not to all pedestrians. We feel there's a strong synergism between the riverfront and the downtown. Affordable housing, as you know, will be a component in this in the housing portion of it.
What percentage?
Where's Don? Where's our expert? No, it comes down to.
It was 5 on one and 10 on the other.
No, it's
The 10 and 15.
10 and 15.
Yeah. Percent, yeah. On the smaller one, it was the larger percentage. On the larger one, the smaller percentage. There's 212 going here and 108 on the other parcel.
Right.
And this was going to be 10% of these, so 21 of them, and 15 of the others.
Affordable is defined as, well, a resident expert. How do we define affordable according to the formula bill that you gave us?
80% of median income in the county is the base for affordable, and the rents or purchase price cannot exceed 30% of that 80. In Westchester, if I remember correctly, median income is about $78,000 for a family of 4. Figure 80% of that, you come down to about $50,000. 30% of that is the affordable rent, and about $15,000 a year.
So it's, Westchester affordable.
It's pretty $12.50 a month.
Right.
Affordable. We're not talking about low income. We're talking about mid-range.
Affordable. Let's hold the questions, and then we'll. Again, we're going to have lunchtime too. So I'll tell you after I finish.
Not all of us are going to lunch.
Oh, okay. After I finish making the presentation, then I appreciate it rather than being interrupted. I'll lose my train of thought, which is very easy for me to do. Now, as we said before, this is the dock. Somebody was confused. This is the dock we're talking about for the ferry, which will have a 50-foot extension on the floating dock. Basically, where we are standing now will be a plaza. You can see, by the way, this area over in here will be the restaurant component. It will probably come up to about where that little pile of trash is, a little behind it, perhaps. Right? We're down here actually hoping it out. A little behind that area. So the housing comes up to stores come up to the corner about over here. No. Let's say halfway between. Probably closer to us. Let's say halfway between. Right. That's all the ground between the piece of wood and the other piece of wood. About in the middle there. So that an area about 3/4 of an acre, about maybe 3/4 to an acre.
How many units are going up in that area,
Don?
Tom?
212.
200. You get 212 units
In this area, let me. I'm sorry.
Look at that, condos on this side of the tracks.
Now, as I started to say, so that this area in here, 3/4 of an acre, will be not owned by the public. It will be an open space. It will be stores and shops on the bottom levels, and actually in a separate building from on this side and the restaurant on that side. And the center, not including the, which I'll get to, the Esplanade. The Esplanade will come all the way along the property. We are looking at, and it's very expensive. Eventually, we're going to have to do, and the Army Corps of Engineers and some of the environmental people had some thoughts about it, but we need to do a better bulkhead. We need to put in, we could probably a stone with cement, nice looking, but yet the riprap is we lose a lot of land, and it looks nice, but I think it'd be better if we had and that's not in the plan. But there will be a strip that comes along a walkway that comes all the way along the riverfront land, all the way around to the tip. Now, just about, I think where that orange strip is, that's pretty close, Don, I think it is.
All right.
Where that orange strip is.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
That's about where the park is you're talking about, right? Yeah.
Park, could be a little bit more this way, but...
It's like 180 feet in from about 20 feet out in the water.
It's 1/4 of an acre.
Hey, Tom, I need a favor. There's a blue Intrepid out there. Anybody own it?
Blue Intrepid? Anybody?
And a white Honda.
And a white Honda? Blue Intrepid, white Honda. Not us.
Oh, go way over there.
Over by the track.
Anybody?
No?
No, okay.
All right.
So in addition to the quarter of an acre, the esplanade that remains in the village hands, the park remains in village hands. Sorry. In addition to that, there is about 3/4 of an acre open space between, and has to remain open, between the restaurant and the row of stores. And yeah, that's
Public can walk throughout this.
right. There'll be a small amphitheater in this area right here, where there can still be some small performances or whatever.
How wide is the esplanade?
Paved plaza, or is it?
It'll be plantings and some grass, but mostly paved.
How wide is the esplanade?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you off the top. I know that in area it's about 3/4 of an acre.
So this area right here.
The area we're on is centered between the stores.
No, my question is,
Yeah.
I know you want to save residents,
sorry.
but this has been a very favorite place of mine for fireworks and for concerts. So will that
Right.
be taking place in the other park, or this will no longer be here?
Well,
So.
the amphitheater for the crowd, the number of people that we've had, the amphitheater, it may overflow. It may not be big enough. It may be big enough, and so they're intending to have it right in this area, right in here.
No, but for like the fireworks crowd we've been having.
No, would not be.
Where would we be able to have?
Where
that?
we used to before we owned it down at the other part. Okay. Obviously, people could stay here too. As part, I mean, the business people would be delighted to have you stay here in their area. Yeah, whatever. Exactly.
What would be the border between the esplanade and the condos? Though I understand there'll be a private swimming pool that'll be just right over where those buses are parked right there. How close will that? In other words, the width of the esplanade is rather important, because if there's a fence with a private boundary which is not available to the public.
When we get up to the restaurant, I have actual plan. Rather than not have to give you the right number, let's take a look at it and we'll answer that question.
You are allowing people to walk 2 by 2. It's not like a single
Oh, no.
file thing or
It's
something.
like 40 or 50 feet.
It's not a tiny.
No. It's quite a way. Now, as Don already said, the area over here will be with the condos on the other parcel, mostly. They'll come up to the fence probably.
Where the buses are?
On this side, I believe it goes up to 4. Then,
Oh.
pretty much completes the plan. Also, the esplanade, by the way, goes all the way around the peninsula on the Kill Brook side. So there'll be another entrance where people can come across. And we're hoping, we're put in for a grant to have a bridge, another pedestrian bridge across the tracks, which will have an elevator in it, for the handicap. But it will come all the way across to here, so that people using the park can use it, or and that will come out right at where the other esplanade is, so people can actually walk all the way around and come here. So it's quite a large esplanade, not just a
The other park is currently on it.
Pardon?
The other park is planned. What's currently on it right now?
The bus, park buses right up there, Now, if you look at the height, you can notice by eye that the height of this land is at least, I don't know, elevation-wise, 3 or 4 feet higher than the parcel across the way. And the reason for that is we have already added 3 feet to this parcel, at least 3 feet. Well, still, yeah, but we capped it, and so that will happen on that parcel. Now, the water on this was possibly the worst water we'll ever, hopefully, name of God, ever have. The water line in this property, you can see the mud on the second step there. You can see the water line up there where the flotsam is on the.
Flooding from the river occurred?
No tidal flooding.
No tidal flooding?
Low tide, 6:30 p.m. on Thursday.
Yeah, but no, on Thursday, high tide.
Yeah.
High tide ended at 4:30. High tide was 4:15, 4:30.
Well, the low tide was
When the worst
6:30.
part of it was happening. And the tide was
Was it, though?
receding, but it was one of the highest tides, the highest 10% tides of the Hudson River.
That debris over there is where the flooding from the hillside.
Right. there was about a foot and a half of water that came into this parcel, which now there's no drainage on the parcel at all other than the natural drainage. So that this parcel, I believe, and also the flavor science parcel had some sort of piece to it. This parcel here, which again is like 3 feet lower, yeah, there was no tidal, again, no tidal flooding at the end of it, but not in this area here. It all was runoff that came off from the Kill Brook, which runs on the other side of this parcel. That's what we call it. You couldn't get to that. I could only see what I could see from the top of the bridge.
They were closed right through Monday. They couldn't even do service Monday, right?
There was damage in there to some of their parking lot, which is pretty ragged. In any event, that parcel is going to be raised and has to be raised. And there was water there, but it was not cataclysmic like we had, on the other side.
We're going to talk about what future plans there are for the Kills floodplain.
Let's do that at lunch. I definitely am. Let's do that at lunch.
There are plans. Yeah.
Actually, well, all right. We have the.
She can't be at lunch.
Well, I realize that, but we all can't plan our lives.
A quick synopsis.
Okay. What time is it? So we don't.
12:15.
Oh, we're good. Okay. We've been very lucky, as you know, in watching the television to have many of our high elected officials and the national director of FEMA in Ossining. The governor and Andy Spano came twice. We have been working with FEMA. We're looking for a designation. So far, there's 4 designations, pretty simple, A, B, C, and D. We have A and B are the lowest. We have those. I've been assured that we're going to get at least C, and possibly C and D, or depending. And that gives us an opportunity to get more grants rather than low-interest loans, which you've heard so much on the TV about. So, in any event, there is a group in FEMA, and I tell you, I'm very impressed. But they've been here. They're here today, actually, going around. There is the Small Business Administration is having meetings right now with our business people in the community center. They're here for 3 days. Because not only our business people, but the SBA also can do housing, low-interest loans, so that we've got it out as best we can on GoTV and a few other areas. But then actually we had the meeting, as you know, last Thursday night, and it was well attended. Sandy Galiff, Sue Galiff, and Village co-sponsored it, and we had a good turnout from FEMA, including the regional director, the SBA. It was quite the State Insurance Fund. There were about 60 to 80 people there, and there were a lot of questions that were answered, and a lot of questions that weren't answered. We all know that they can only help us within the law, and unfortunately, the law allowing what they can do. When it comes to municipality, we are hopeful, as you read in the newspaper. We're looking at between $15 and $20 million worth of damage for the village, not counting the private homes, which is a lot of money. It's about 15 to 20 million.
It's almost annual budget. That's a lot.
It's 18 million, yes, it's the annual budget, about the middle. So that but there's a group in FEMA they call the Stream Team. And we have them first. They've been here already. They've walked the lanes of the stream. The village has already started doing emergency clearance, just where there's areas where the stream is blocked to make sure if we have another rain it doesn't happen again. So that the Stream Team, which is going to be, they're having a meeting in White Plains, I believe next Thursday. That was their target. And it's a nationally well-known group, part of FEMA, that does just what its name says. It comes and we're looking at not only cleaning up the stream, but what can we do to make the Killbrook better? The Killbrook has jumped its borders in many areas right now. It's running in places where it's not supposed to. The stream's a little bit wider now than it was. So that we're looking to go beyond, especially between the end of Parcel C, where the brook comes through our property, which we're going to go over there too. I don't know. No.
That would be nice.
Well, I don't know. It's up to the voters. It's their program.
The exact space that you're proposing the condominiums.
Right.
How many feet higher than the top of that building will the condominiums rise?
The condominium, there's no condominiums on this parcel over here at all. The hotel will rise approximately 3.5 stories above the train station. Parking garage is up to 4 stories. It's not. It's just below the roof of the building. Anyway, as I was saying with this stream thing, there is a lot of, most of the problem, actually, to quote one of the engineers, if we'd had 4 culverts the size that we have over at our highway garage that night, 4 culverts side by side rather than the one we have, it still would not have taken the water that came off that hill. It was a flash flood.
Really?
And so that making a culvert, the village manager used the word yesterday, if we did something like that, we'd become culvert city. Not only here, but throughout the village. It's difficult to plan your lives for a storm that we have the 100-year storm, the 200-year storm, there's even in the 500-year storm, which, you know, it's just not that much bigger than a 200-year storm. What it refers to is the amount of water and the volume of water in amount of time. That's what classifies, and obviously the more years, the less frequently we hope it happens. It happens every 100 years or every 200 years. We've had a 100-year storm here in Ossining before. But obviously, I mean, it did some damage and it flooded the parking lot. But it did, obviously, what we had, we could go Thursday, was something, it was a freak of nature in a sense. It was a hurricane that stalled over an area of northern Westchester, or it's, we were on the leeward side probably as it came through. And the amount of water we had, 12 inches, 12 to 12.5 inches, and less than 4.5 hours. New Rochelle and other places south got 4 to 5 inches, to give you an idea. There's some places north that got 16 inches. But it was Ossining, Briarcliff, Newcastle, Bedford, Mount Kisco, Yorktown. Yeah, Yorktown is probably almost as much, as damaged as we got. They have roads. But we have quite a few roads that are questionable too. But we have 3 bridges out. They have 4. So in any event, that area got the bulk of the storm. How will that ever happen again? Could it happen again? Yes, it could.
Not to interrupt.
Yes.
With the devastation of the rainforest, I know it's not right here now, but you're creating an imbalance on the planet. And to bring it back home, the reason we're having more hurricanes and they're becoming so destructive is because of the devastation that's happening thousands of miles away. So don't say it can't happen within 100 years. It could happen within 3 years. It could happen next week. So go ahead and please.
Yeah, well, can you wait for some of that discussion till lunchtime?
I'm not going to lunch. I want to see the other side. I'm a concerned taxpayer.
Okay, we're glad to have you here. To answer your question, I only know what recorded history in Ossining says, which is 200. We talked to Roberta. There is no recorded history of a flood of this proportion in Ossining. Why did that happen? We're going to look into why that happened. If there's anything we can do to make it lessen. But my point is, could it happen again? Yes. My point is, we need to prepare. I think we can. These 2 parcels here, I'm convinced that we could do something that where they would not be affected. I mean, this one parcel, parcel A, parcel. Yes, we will stand. We've stood this. You know, parcel B, having a parking garage, bottom layer with 2 feet of water in it, much nicks. As long as it doesn't get, as long as the footings are strong enough, they don't get undermined. That's been flooded many times. That parking lot. The computers will tell you that. So that's basically it. The other point I was making is, we are going to get major help. The real problem, as I started to say a long time ago, was between where that brook comes into our garage, and it comes underground, just past the garage, over to about the end of the Flavor side. I mean the bus property, the other side of the bus property, and that's all underground. And those culverts are smaller than the culverts we have that are feeding it. That's all owned by the state. What goes underneath the tracks.
Is the state planning on replacing them now?
Well, as we were standing and talking about this 2 or 3 times, we mentioned, the Metro North people, President and everybody were here too, we mentioned that right now, those culverts are still half full with debris, which we faxed them, we wrote them, we overnighted them, you know. We forewarned is forearmed. And they need to get in there and clean those out. Of course, it wouldn't have made any difference with this storm because it was the Red River coming, you know, flooding. We call it the Colorado River. In any event,
Is there going to be any shoring up the hillside because of this? I mean, if you have all this development down here, obviously, if we had another 200-year storm, it would do much more damage. We had a huge development here. So they're working on the hillside.
well, I don't agree with that. I think that it showed, at least on parcel A, that well, first of all, it wasn't that bad, and second of all, they're going to have to do some remedial work, drainage and other things, to raising it up maybe even a little more, raising that property up so that the damage would not be as great. And this, I can't speak for parcel B or parcel C, but parcel A, I believe, is going to be safe. Yes, sir.
In terms of what the open land here, will children be permitted to play ball on it?
I wouldn't think ball. It would not be large enough to play ball. But they certainly would be able to, you know, recreate. May even be, there's not planning to be any, except on the tip, there'll be a park over here. They don't play ball on that either, but there'll be obviously recreational things on it.
Well, you mean recreational?
Quarter of an acre.
Recreational, like...
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Pardon?
That's okay.
What kind of recreation could they do? Could they run? Do you think you'd be allowed to run on the land here?
I would think so. Why not? Probably even, and bicycle too.
Because the shoppers walking back and forth between the two shopping areas would probably object.
Well, on Main Street, oh no, I don't think so. On Main Street, they ride their bicycles, and people run up and down Main Street. And that's probably it's a lot narrower than this is going to be.
So you think that bicycle riding would be allowed on this area here?
And on the Esplanade, I would think so. I would think so. I can't.
I mean the area here in between the shopping areas.
It is.
I don't know. I don't know is a safe answer. I would imagine so, but I don't know.
So do you think we'll be able to attract some major stores, or is it?
We don't. We want what we want down here for the restaurant. He'll be bidding. There'll be 20 people lining up to want to put a restaurant over here. If he's smart, he'll do it himself. The stores on this side, there are provisions in the contract that prevent them from being stores that just service the housing. You know what I'm talking about? Right. So it has to be the type of store that services the whole community. Some can be that way, but most of them have to be those that will serve the whole community.
Yeah.
And
but I mean, Ossing's had trouble in the past because of transportation getting in and out of attracting major retailers.
Right. Well, things are moving along up on the downtown now too. It looks things are starting to pop up there.
Remember that sometimes major...
Land has gotten a little more expensive, hasn't it, Bart?
Huh?
The land up there is a little more expensive than it was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Parking would not be adequate for the major store.
Here? Oh, no. No, this is, we're talking about boutique shops, you know. Remember the people coming on the ferry, the people live here, and also, you know, people would visit.
Yeah.
Well, that's another story.
Rocky's Ossining?
No, please don't tempt me. I haven't got the money, right? No.
Okay, Tom, we better move on.
Move on?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Just in terms of detail.
Where do we go next?
Where is that? Is that where Maui is? Did we see that?
This is Maui right here.
Maui, right.
That
We're
is
standing
where
at
the
Maui.
buses are.
That's the bus. We cannot go on that property. We can stand in front of it, but we can't go on it.
C or D?
No, C's on the other
This is all A over
This is
here.
all A. Everything on the west side of the tracks is A.
We're over here now.
There's just in terms of detail, Tom.
Yes, ma'am.
So you got, I think it's what, 8,000 square foot commercial here and 12,000 here, or vice versa?
You had it right.
Right. So it's going to be 20,000 square feet of commercial on here. Right.
That's a significant amount.
Yeah.
This stage,
Pardon?
do you think they're going to move this stage over to the other part then?
There's going to be a little amphitheater right here.
Right, but this stage is so nice. Are they going to try to preserve it in some way?
I don't know. I doubt it.
I like it. The developer has done.
Basically, I play like a guitar player in terms of like picking with a pick. My fingers cramp up. Yeah, I wouldn't mind messing around with you guys. Wonder how far in we can get. This is still A. Everything on this side is A.
This is going to be
all the time, isn't he?
Is this going to be...
This is where the condos are going to be. Yep.
This is my first...
And the condos?
The condos going to come.
From that side where you can see this direction, they can see in that direction where the Portuguese buildings are. Excellent weather. They can't see past the other.
What's the name of the street where the transfer station used to be?
Oh, that's 100 Street. That's way over here.
They're not affected in their street.
Yeah, there's several houses right here.
Oh, okay. So
Three houses.
the structure is going to start on the other parking lot on the other side. Where is it starting? Between the train station and the sign?
Talking about the whole, the parking garage will take the whole, most of the footprint of the parking lot, and a little bit more over.
Yeah, it keeps going beyond, about halfway down Water Street behind Izzy's, and then comes out onto Water Street. But then the hotel only covers the area over the plaza here.
Right.
So that'll
Well,
be
actually,
about
but
8 stories,
it's
right?
a little bit more this corner.
Is that building gone?
Yeah, okay.
Is the Ossining Hotel and that whole thing gone?
No, that's, well, no, it's supposed to be here. It's just going to be, you know, like that close to this huge thing.
And then
The end of the
Over here, right, and it goes that way to there. I mean, it's
closest to the train station.
yeah,
Hotel?
it's tucked in the corner.
And the garage is gone?
The garage is under it. That's,
No. The existing,
they said 80 to 120, depending on on when they're talking about.
the existing garage is gone, and the glass place here, all that.
All that stuff still.
That stays?
Those streets are showing up, but there's like supposedly all these taking, you know, like preliminary studies to do taking of a whole lot of that stuff.
The hotel is going to be in this area.
Right on the other side of the tracks, right where that parking lot is there, there's going to be a 4-story parking garage, and then on top of it a 4-story hotel. The hotel is going to go from about where the train station feed road is over there to about here, Tom says. The garage continues 4 stories out past the end of where Izzy's is. It goes beyond it, and it comes out on Water Street. It's mammoth.
It's going to be very big.
Yeah, huge.
How many rooms are
Hotel is only going to be, he said, 80 to 120. It depends on which discussion at which meeting you hear. But it's not. I mean, this stuff isn't set in stone yet. They don't have the approvals yet. All of that. What they're going for. But
Is that mainly to help commuters?
supposedly, except that there'll be an excess of parking spaces of about 100%. We'll put them out of commission through Monday, right?
Oh, we can't. Nothing can be underground. The water table is at the ground level. Yeah. Okay, basically this parcel, you go all the way. It's a shame we can't go out to the part at the end here because you can see New York City at the tip of that peninsula. It's a beautiful, and that's where the park will be. No, this is still A. Still all A. And the tip will be a park, and the rest will be condominiums, except for the esplanade that runs along the Kill Brook. Which it's worth walking another 100 feet to see the Kill Brook if you want to. So the other side of that building, and then there'll be a walkway that people can come down. The new, hopefully, the new pedestrian bridge. In line with actually the whole property leads up to the Kill Brook, if you look at it.
Don't have the people that built trains.
So those will be our elevators. They didn't want to put an elevator. They put an elevator in. That's how ours will look as Spartan.
Mayor, do you feel this might take development away from our downtown area where we're trying to...
Not at all. Actually, all of the experts, all of the studies that we've done have told us that this should be developed first, and that would follow because obviously having development on the riverfront is easier than changing things up there. But we're already finding, besides the developer himself, who is already working in 2 buildings, the bank on the corner was finally approved, the county trust building. There's 2 or 3 buildings in that have already, the downtown I think is coming back, having to do with other things that have happened over the last 10 years, and also because of the excitement that this project has created.
How do you feel this will impact our school system? I have 2 small children in both Park and Brookside, and I see that their classes are already overcrowded. How will it help our school system to bring in more people?
Okay. Well, first of all, take a ride to any condominium in Austin. The condominiums in Austin, my condominium where I live has 3 children. Eagle Bay has 4. And on it goes. So the condominium development does not tend to, and the smaller nature of some of the apartments.
Eagle Bay has 4 children
4
in the total.
In the whole parcel, yeah.
Yeah, the way that affordable housing is defined is family of 4, so that doesn't quite gel.
I know, but it's only 10% or 10%.
20 units.
I thought it was
But
20%
in any event,
10% of the other.
right. No, 10% here, 50% there. It's more here than it is.
You're trying to say in the whole condominium for Eagle Bay there are only 4
Well,
children?
there may
I
be-
know one family with 2 children
Right.
alone there, the Perot.
What I'm saying
I
is
don't think that's the truth,
the
Mayor.
number of
I don't
children.
think that's the truth. There are more than 4 children living in Eagle Bay.
It's hyperbole. The number of children in these condominiums is not a large amount. Okay, there will not be a lot of school children here. You asked the question. I'll answer your question. The question was, what's it going to do for our school system? Pay your taxes. That's what it's going to do.
And you don't think Parkland will enable children to have a place to play that already live here
I answered your
instead
question.
of putting all this development in?
Anybody else have any questions?
This is still part of this thing is still part of this.
Yes. This right now we own this obviously, but the plans show this building staying because it was had some character, but it will end up going too. This building is
Some character.
well, the brick.
Sorry.
This building here will be taken down, and everything else will be developed. Obviously, the development is not all building. Obviously, a condominium has space between there's a pool and there's some recreation area, but this will be basically the condominium here.
Where will the school buses go then?
School buses are now they're planning to, at this point to spread them around to 3 different schools. Everybody know Lou Engle? Remember Louis Engle?
Yeah.
Louis Engle, many years ago, actually, I can't forget the year now, but probably in 71 or something like that. He made a deal with there was a covenant in the deed when they let them park the buses. He didn't want the buses to park here. He fought it tooth and nail to allow the buses. He finally had to relent because the school system needed someplace to park their buses. But the tip that we are going to use for a park, which is already a park, it's already been voted to be made a park, because we had to. He had a covenant in the deeds that allowed after 20 years, and there were trigger dates, and the town had first choice, and the village had second choice. The town did not opt. We opted to make that a park. If we didn't do that option, it would have stayed in private hands. So that we notified the day that we notified that we voted to take that whatever it was. We told the school system. When we voted to make it a park, we told the school system. When the day I was inaugurated mayor, I got Bob Rawley, who was a good friend of mine, came to my inauguration. I told him, I said, Bob, start thinking about getting your buses off the waterfront. Also, he got a letter in February, with an official letter from the village, February, March, telling him to get his bus. We've been, I don't feel responsible for the problem the school system, quite frankly. The village of Ossining gave them many, many months, years of notice that this is going to happen. And I think it's certainly a misuse of riverfront water to have buses parked here. So,
what's the timetable
all
for?
thank Lou Engle. This whole project wouldn't be happening.
Tom, what's the timetable for moving them?
They'll be out of here in a couple of weeks.
Where are they going?
Pardon? They're parking. They're parking 10 at the middle school, 10 at the high school, and 10 at the administration building. The rest are going to go up to Yorktown.
Where are they parking at the high school, Mayor? I can't
The new
visualize.
parking lot will be a temporary. Where they're building over there will be a temporary stand.
I know the people around Dan and
Can
Daughter
I
do
make
not
a
want to
point?
have
This is a
parking
League of
there.
Women
That we
Voters
know.
tour, and we'd like to get
think
our
we have
league
to move
issues
along.
dealt with, and then after we could ask other questions.
Very good. Well,
Because we're trying to,
This is the Kilbrook.
Yeah.
Right. Well, it runs all the way through Ossining. The brook up on Pine Avenue.
And Brookside is called Brookside.
Pardon? Yeah.
Oh boy, look how dirty it is now. It's not usually this dirty. Oh, I'm sorry.
It never. The railroad, going back to 1850s, there was damage to tracks. They had to stop the trains for a few hours or even half a day. but there was never been a time when the tracks were actually upended. There was actually no tracks and bent tracks. It was just a total disaster. It had never, and like I say, the culverts that run under here are half the size of our culverts. So that it begs the question of major renovations. Yeah, it will go somewhere right about in here, I believe. I forget the exact, where it was before, actually. People could walk up to the station, plaza. So,
Is the queue going to be covered over at any point?
Pardon?
Will it be covered over at any point?
Covered over now.
Where's the down here?
Oh, down here? No, this stays open.
And going back?
That's open, but
Since he said it was on the other
going
side.
back, it's past the highway garage now. Coming forward, it's been suggested, right? The plans initially called to cover it and cover it.
This is the highway garage.
It's been suggested recently, in fact, was the planning board or somebody has suggested that it would be better or nicer for the people who live there to keep it open.
All right,
And for us.
ask him, Nancy, because
Pardon? Well, that would be such a big culvert, people won't be able to see it.
where's the highway garage? Is that the highway garage?
Over that way. Over across the tracks, DPW.
Oh, that's why.
There it is.
That's what I thought.
Where do we go from here?
Yeah.
This building here, I don't know, that's an old grain elevator.
Mayor,
Like
what's
you-
going to be in C? What's that going to be?
Housing.
Look, there's a park there.
Pardon?
Park.
The, all of them, well, the Grand Tetons are a park too. You can't walk on all of them.
No, but the plan says park.
Pardon me? It is. I was just going to explain
So
that.
it is a park.
I was just anticipating your problem.
In addition.
The, we call it, what does Linda Megano call it? What's it?
Parachute Park.
Parachute Park.
Because you can't get into it.
The land behind the highway garage is the Kill Gorge. Right now, part of the problem may have been, but actually not with this storm, but one part of it is to clean it all the way out and fix it so you can see the Kill Gorge from parts of Main Street looking down. Right now you can't because it's all overgrown and there's garbage and God knows what down there. Clean that out. They want to make a walking trail in that park. A walking trail of some kind into the park. It'll be difficult. There won't be handicap access, obviously. But it would be to preserve that land. Keep it forever green, which we could essentially build housing right up into the gorge. That land will be kept made park land. Right. Yeah, but they'll also, we hope to do more than that. In the lower part, you can do even more before you really get up into it. But it's basically preservation. And
So you're saying actually it's not the type of park that you think of when you think of park to walk in?
unless only if we put the walkway through, yes, it will be. Other than that, no.
So when you give acreage of park that's going to be in this development, is that part of it?
Yes, it is. And if you were a conservationist, I'm sure you are, when land like that is spoken of, it's to many people even better than having kids playing on it.
How many units are going up there
Pardon
of
me?
housing? How many units will be going over there of housing?
Don, where's my resident memory?
108.
108, is that the 108 one? Okay, then this is the 212.
Right.
Where?
The housing over there.
Oh, Capelli all the way. Capelli is building everything, including now the parking garage, unless the MTA gets in the act. They may end up building it. It could be actually better for us. We don't need to be in the garage business.
And this is a phased-in project starting at a certain time. This is phase 1.
Funny you should mention that. They asked a question down there. The first thing built will be the parking garage. And then we'll use, unfortunately, we have this land here for temporary commuter parking.
That would be good if it could be.
Okay, we ready to go up for lunch?
Mayor, this is sort of not quite project related, but the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers has a whole different philosophy when it comes to water control and flood control, and they're kind of bursting the dams and allowing water to have access.
Right.
Is that going to be taken into consideration when you're going to get doing some rebuilding in all these places where you dammed up? Because it's like now a whole different point of view within the last 5 years.
Right. Well, it's only dammed up because there's a big tree in the road. Right? In other words, we're certainly not going to do anything to further dam up, make dams. Which is just channeling the brook where it goes under roadways, making it wider. Looking at the catchment area. I know Newcastle added about 100 acres to our catchment area. They did us a favor in one sense. They stopped some flooding, but it also added more runoff. Well, about 15 years ago. So,
could I ask one more question, Tom?
Sure.
With the parking structure on a fast track, or what's like the time frame for that? Because that doesn't need the zoning amendments, right?
Okay. It does need the zoning amendments.
It does.
Capelli
Okay.
builds it. If
Gotcha.
the MTA builds
right,
it,
it's outside of zoning. Yeah, right. So what would the timetable be with MTA if they're talking about?
It's speculative to talk about it, so I wouldn't know.
It's not imminent, though, right?
Not imminent, no. I would say next spring.
Okay.
Capelli would like to have gotten it started in the fall.
Yeah.
They've done a lot of the preparatory work, and a lot of drilling and testing and probing and prodding. And we can say unequivocally at this point there has been no showstopper. In areas like this, it could be, you could find things that could really put it environmentally put a crimp in anything, a park included. And so far, whoops, here we go.
They're working.
Yeah, thank God, yeah, but a lot of OT.
Yeah, back now.
So, what was I saying? I apologize.
About imminent. Oh, that Capelli wanted to get started on
well,
in the
in any
fall.
event, that's...
No showstoppers, that's what you were saying.
It wasn't it, but the environmental problems so far are not showstoppers.
Tom, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
This hotel that they're proposing,
yes.
I mean, I've heard that it's really their intention not to build a hotel, but to actually call it a hotel, but eventually it becomes a nursing, senior citizen home. Is that correct?
Well,
because
what would be
by
wrong with
doing this, they avoid a lot of the red tape that goes into building a senior citizen home.
Well, actually, it's easier to build senior citizen
No,
housing.
it's not, because there's
I'm
in the
telling
last
you,
7 years, there have only been 3
no
approved
school
in
kids,
Westchester County.
Another question.
How is it easy?
We're at the Churrascara.
What we'll do, we'll tell him to ignore me talking and set up. And you go ahead.
Yeah, they're going to start setting up the food now. They want to wait till everything was here.
Hi, Barbara.
Could be with us this morning, and we're looking forward eagerly to some of their answers to questions. I also want to flag you that on October 16th, we're going to do a tour of the Croton waterfront plans with Ann Galelli, who is the chair of our planning board. And I think with Bob Elliott, too, who is, of course, very active in all the waterfront development up and down the Hudson River. I urge you to come. Also, I might mention that Croton is now looking at a new master plan, which is now a 1977 plan, and we last year had a waterfront revitalization plan which was adopted, and none of that's provided for in the master plan. So this is part of what we're going to be looking at. We also want to look at the interplay of governmental units between these two, Ossining and Croton, to see if there are ways that they can be more useful to each other. I think we've got a pretty good picture, and we're grateful for having a chance to see it. But I'm glad that Tom has got a map to show us, because a lot of this is visual, and I think actually we're going to have to lift that up a little bit higher.
We'll get started.
Okay. I just want to say that the League has organized this waterfront and land use committee for 3 purposes. One is to go see what the developments are. The second is to see what the interaction among the planning units is. and if any kind of updating needs to be done in order to have a more regional, cooperative look at the way the river's going. And the third is we want to seek the views of other civic and commercial groups on what is going on, so that this is not just limited to league information only. We want to involve all the others. Any of you who are not members of the league, I urge you to join. And Barbara, I don't mean Barbara, Dorothy Rinaldo is going to be asking the questions that the league has prepared for Tom and Barbara.
Now, what are we doing in terms of this?
And we're going to go in while they set up the buffet. They're supposed to be setting up the buffet.
Right, I told you to continue, even though we're talking, you continue.
We'll just go right ahead.
Just take one of these and pass it along. It's nothing much, just a little idea.
We need to lift that up higher.
Yeah, I'll get to it. Yes, we will. I don't need to. Okay, just before we answer the questions, which I also have a copy of. Thank you. Basically, I think you got a good overview of the project as we went along there. I'll tighten you up a little bit when we show you the map and go over it briefly again. But I think as we move forward here, there's a lot of information out there. I think that from the beginning of this whole project, the village, Mr. Capelli, but mainly the village itself, certainly we've had many, many different meetings, many discussions, but this goes back even further than that. We've done planning, such as the waterfront plan. I know I see that Blair has put down one of the plans that was done quite a few years ago. We've done the coastal zone management study. We've done our homework on the waterfront in Ossining. Part of it was mandated, part of it we did on our own. And when John Pasquarello was mayor, they began this whole process of waterfront development. It all grew out of the park that we first stood on, and Lewis angled the fact that we were able to even look at that other parcel. We started looking at getting the tip of the bus property, and exercise. We had to have access to it, which we barely had through the Flavor Science building and a few others. That was the genesis of the planning of this whole thing. The zoning for the riverfront, WD1 and WD2, pretty much carries out the principles that you see there under C. Changing some of the uses to lighter uses than the industrial uses presently, not forcing the issue, but as companies decided they wanted to move, except in the case of Flavor Sciences, as you all know. Right, as you can see, right in the middle of the whole thing, without that parcel, we couldn't do much down there. So including like a park, because it goes right to the river. But I think that the planning and the thought that's going into the early stages of this, we had, as you know, a vision process. But before that, they had meetings all over the community. Interest groups, they had meetings with the NAACP, they had meetings with business. The idea was to find out what people in Ossining wanted the riverfront to be. Now, I know people want to recreate the wheel and go back and do it over again. I'm sorry, we've been there, we've done it. There were 7 meetings, including 2 public meetings that John held when he was mayor, just for that purpose. It was all put together. In fact, Ray had a model that everybody laughed at that time, our planner. And oh, look at this, ha ha ha. And the model itself changed as we went along. The model was changed 5 or 6 times because of people that were different. The people of Ossining at that time, and many people I've spoken to since, said that we could not afford to make this whole thing a park. It came up then. It was discussed at that time. Why not condemn all the property down there or buy all the property down there and make the whole thing a park? People felt, if I asked you today, what is Ossining's biggest problem? Who could give me an answer to that question? What's Ossining's biggest problem?
Lack of business.
Commercial development. You're almost there.
Drugs.
Well, okay. If we had money, we might be able to do something about that too. The biggest problem you're hitting around the edge, the biggest problem is our tax base. Ossining has, we spend less per capita on all of our services than the bottom of the list in the county of what we spend. That's the true measure of how much money you really have. Our tax base, we have a prison, we have many religious institutions, and our tax base has depreciated over the years. Until 3 years ago, it's now going up very slowly. It was on a scale going down. The certiorari's and all that didn't help either. But basically the biggest problem Ossining has is dollars. And dollars relate to the tax base. And the people at that time who were looking at the riverfront said, yeah, you know, it'd be nice to have the whole thing green. But we couldn't afford to do that. We needed to get something back on our waterfront. Something that would help us pay our taxes. They also said they wanted access to the river. Okay, they also wanted access. They also said they didn't want to have all housing down there. We could have developed that with all housing. Ginsburg would have done it 5 years ago. When Pasquarello was going around, it was done on a private basis, which he has a right to do. We were dealing with one developer for over a year. Mr. Ginsburg wouldn't even come forward then because he didn't want mixed-use development. He wanted all housing. The people told us they wanted mixed use. They didn't want it all to be housing. They wanted parks. They wanted to have business. And they would accept and wanted to have some housing to enjoy the views of the Hudson River, which actually, the housing is what's paying the freight. Ginsburg, that's why he wouldn't do it, because he didn't believe that commercially at that time he could make it go. But that whole plan and the model and everything was developed over a 3-year period. And we then ensconced it in our zoning, and the WD1, WD zoning, which we're told is pretty creative zoning. It forces people to assemble parcels a little bit rather than have them become smaller. And the vision that we had then, and that came out of all of the work that was done, came forward to a point where we began the actual process. I also think that process, according to people who have been involved, including Mike Zarin, who does this for a living and has done it many times, he's actually an environmental lawyer, the process and the inclusion and the openness of this type of a project was certainly more open than they had in New Rochelle. And we've had, as you can see on your flyer there, besides the vision plan, the public request for proposal, we had 2 or 3 open meetings just for the request for proposal, the public scoping session, but there were other meetings even in between that. And now we are just beginning to have meetings. The heavy stuff is yet to come. The scoping session is just to identify the environmental problems. Now he has to go in and do an EIS. Okay? Now he has to go in and do an environmental study. And we have hired people, and he's paying for it, just so you know. He's the people that will work with that process. And that's why, I don't know if anybody saw what we had presented at the scoping session. It was pretty comprehensive. We got a lot more input. In fact, some of the input came in up to 10, 15 days later in writing. We told everybody to do that. So we believe we have a pretty comprehensive scoping. And actually, during the environmental process, you can bring other things in too. If we forgot something, it won't get left under the rug. So there will be hearings. I would suggest there would have to be 2 or 3 hearings at least. There'll be for the initial EIS, and then when we approve it, there's 2 or 3 at least hearings, and I will promise that there'll be. I don't think you can do something like that in one night. I agree with Mr. DeBar on one thing. Yeah, I actually agree on a lot more than that. But the one thing I do agree was, I think, while the scoping session was open, and we had several, several opportunities to do that, and it was advertised widely. When we came in and accepted the scoping session, we were working on a time deadline on our contract. We should have done it. We should have advertised it sooner. It snuck up on us. It was the wrong thing to do. We should have had more time for it. We argued for half an hour before we came out that night whether we were going to do it or not, to be honest with you. So young lady down at Waterfront asked that question. That was one point well taken. So I think that, except for that, we have definitely had